What kind of person can charge another person, in this case, a former president of the United States, who got more votes than any sitting president in history and leading candidate by far for the Republican Party nomination, with a crime when it is known by all that no crime has been committed, and also known that potential death and destruction in such a false charge could be catastrophic for our country? Question mark. Why and who would do such a thing? Only a degenerate psychopath that truly hates the USA. We should understand exactly the meaning of his quote. It's a threat against America, against the domestic tranquility, against the peace. An American president is talking about catastrophic violence should he be arrested as he predicted and as he's announced. He's called for protests, making clear to make sure that he never used the word peaceful. This is a man, Donald Trump, who is already killed with the word. He incited murder, mayhem. He attempted through his incitements to have the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, hung as he sought to discharge his duties to certify the presidential election for the actual winner. You see, it seems that nobody told Donald Trump the truth. Nobody was able to sit across from Donald Trump in the Oval Office or anywhere else and simply say, Mr. President, you lost. The American people have decided. They rejected you. They voted for Joe Biden. He's the president-elect of the United States now. It must be bruising to the ego for a man such as Donald Trump to lose the most powerful office in the world. But it's happened, and it's happened to better men than him. Certainly, it was painful for men like Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter to lose the office, to be rejected by the will of the American people, but their service to the country never ceased. They never tried to poison American democracy because they lost, because they were faithful men, faithful to the ideas and precepts of the American Revolution and to the continuation of the American experiment and project. But not Donald Trump, who wants to burn it all down. Now, let's be clear. What Donald Trump is doing is trying to incite violence by predicting it. Let's also be clear that if it breaks out, if there is an act of violence, we can imagine the absurdity already of everybody sitting on the television shows wondering if it's fair to attach the violence to the man who incited it. Donald Trump understands exactly what he's saying. He's hoping for mayhem as his final insulation from the consequences of his actions. Donald Trump is signaling that he would prefer civil war than to accept arrest that he predicted. The thing about Donald Trump is that he doesn't care about the country. He's a vandal. He cares about himself, and he'll burn it all down to sate his ego, to try to satisfy his narcissistic urges. Donald Trump despises both the American people, who he's conned and lied to more than 30,000 times over the 4 short years of his presidency. Donald Trump can't be trusted, except to do one thing, which is the worst thing always that he can do in any given moment. And in this case, it's to incite violence, as he seeks to undermine confidence in the judiciary and the judicial system, as he sought to undermine confidence and faith and belief in democracy. Donald Trump understands precisely what it is that he's saying, but so does the media. Will they report it clearly and accurately? Will they face up to the fact that a former president of the United States who's already killed with words is trying to incite more violence on the eve of his predicted arrest? What about the members of Congress? What about Republican senators like Mitt Romney? What about Republican members of the House? Will any of them step forward? Will any of them denounce this? Will any of them say to the American people and to MAGA Republicans that no, the arrest of Donald Trump is not a cause for political violence, that Donald Trump's words are poison, that the union is indivisible, and that the United States is bigger than the ego of one man? The idea that we would sunder the union because Donald Trump has been arrested? Millions of people are arrested in the United States every year, and they enter the judicial system. Donald Trump will be treated fairly in that system. And it's important that his fiercest critics be his staunchest defenders in that regard. Donald Trump, if he's arrested, is innocent until he's proven guilty. But the one thing that Donald Trump doesn't get to do is to intimidate the justice system by calling people to violence. This is a mark of national decay and national shame. How can it be that the entire elected class of Republicans from a party that was the home of Abraham Lincoln sit silently by while Donald Trump issues threat after threat and makes intimation after intimation towards violence? How can they do it? Do they have no feelings of love at all towards their country and towards their countrymen? Do they, in fact, want to see mass violence? Do not they understand their moral culpability should it break out? This is a dire moment because it is as it seems. A man who occupied the highest office in the land, the office of President of the United States, is saying that should he be arrested in relation to any of the multiple criminal investigations that are underway against him in various states and various jurisdictions, including the federal jurisdiction, that violence will be at hand. Why would a free people tolerate this? Why would America's highest elected officials tolerate it? There can only be one reason. It's cowardice and it's fear. We have scores of men and women in elected office all across the country who are afraid of the consequences of opposing Donald Trump. That's a stain on their character because it marks them as cowards, moral cowards, who lack the judgment and the integrity to stand up for America as a nation of laws, where no person is above the law. This is a dangerous moment, growing more dangerous because of the constant acquiescence of people who should know better towards the insanity for the 8th year running. We have a moment of crisis in this country because the Republican frontrunner, according to the polls, is calling for political violence overtly. Should he face arrest? It's a despicable thought. But it's precisely what Donald Trump is demanding. Special treatment, insulation. None of the things he says matter. It doesn't matter if he's at 90% in the polls. It doesn't matter if he's the incumbent president of the United States. No person in this country is above the law, and certainly not him. Donald Trump's antics are worrying because they say something about the people who are supposed to bring us the news. They say something about us as a people because we've tolerated this for too long. And for too long, the people who are supposed to tell it to us straight have pretended this guy doesn't mean what he says. And he does mean what he says. He would love blood in the streets, but he's not going to get it. He's like the boy who cried wolf. He's running out of energy, running out of steam. His best days are behind him. He's enmeshed in legal glue and he's lashing out and he's flailing. But that doesn't mean that the flailing isn't dangerous. It is. Because someone, somewhere out there is sick and twisted and just waiting to be triggered. That's what Donald Trump is doing. And should the blood flow, he'll be responsible. as will all the silent quislings who refused to condemn it while they had a chance.